I have heard from some tier one banks that they may issue their own US dollar stablecoin. And hard for me to predict how that plays out.
Yeah.
But that also is evidence that they're leaning in a way they haven't before. And again, if there's one thing I would emphasize to this audience, we are underestimating the tailwinds from the shift of the last 6 months. The largest economy in the world has been quite hostile to our industry and is now moving the other direction quickly. And I think we underestimate those tailwinds.
Yeah.
Brad Garlinghouse, to open this video, said two really important things. First, why do you think tier one banks are discussing with him their plans to launch a stablecoin? You think they just called some random crypto company and was like, hey, we're going to compete with you. Here's what we're going to do. Of course not. They're partners of Ripple. And the first that comes to mind, of course, is Bank of America. They are long-standing partners with Ripple. And their CEO has said, once we have regulations in place, we're launching a stablecoin. And I bet you Ripple assists many of them to launch their own stablecoin. And you will see more than one go the same route Ripple did with a dual issuance, both on the Ethereum blockchain and the XRP ledger. It'll expand from there as well. It's a multi-chain future, but many at launch will do exactly that, those two blockchains. And this changes the landscape because what is really happening here? You are building pipes, directly into the blockchain from major institutions where you have liquidity on and off ramps direct from the blockchain to these big pieces of infrastructure globally. This is going to be a transformational period here as we get regulations not just in the United States and we transform the XRP ledger into this central hub of global finance. Now, the second thing he says that I think you should pay attention to and think about, because right now, scary time, man. There's a lot going on within traditional finance, trade wars, all sorts of conflicts. But when it comes to investing in cryptocurrencies, the things we have been waiting for, they're happening now in real time. You can't, discount that fact that we went from a very adversarial U.S. government to one now that is going to promote innovation specifically in blockchain. That is, you can't even measure what kind of difference that's going to make. You have other countries also looking to match that, bringing on advisors, starting their own sovereign wealth funds with crypto holdings. Like, this industry has changed overnight in a very short amount of time, and I think a lot of people are missing it. Now, let's take a look at this first article here. The U.S. isn't betting on Bitcoin. It's betting on stablecoins. I didn't write that. I didn't write that title, to be honest with you. They are betting on Bitcoin. They're going to be holding Bitcoin, but stablecoins are a big part of what they're doing. And, for us, this is really the Trojan horse. They have to adopt this technology. Those stablecoins have to run on open networks, so no one's going to use them. And it just gives more liquidity for our real cryptocurrencies, the ability to trade into and out of any currency we want. This is the future. This is what kind of ushers in this open and free financial system. And, the establishment, they get something they want. They get to bring the cost down. They get to, the U.S. government gets to push U.S. dollars into territories that otherwise wouldn't allow it. Like, governments can't stop that. You have a decentralized wallet. You can hold dollars, digital dollars in your wallet, use those in your local economy. Like, this is what they want to do. These companies are going to buy a lot of the U.S. debt, a lot of treasuries. Like, that's their side of it. But our side of it is this technology continues to expand and grow in use and become mainstream adopted. It's like this revolution that they just cannot stop. They have no ability to stop it. And this is giving them their part of it, what they want, a more efficient use of, fiat currency. But we also get what we want, which is the ultimate win here. We see China right now pushing their digital yuan with global aspirations, of course. And so Washington is quietly backing the digital dollar, USDC, USDT, Ripple's RLUSD, and others as well. This is really strengthening U.S. financial power. We had from Ripple, Chris Larson, many years ago saying, blockchain is not going to replace fiat currencies. It's actually going to expand its reach and its use. and going to give a lot of people access to these major global fiat currencies that otherwise may not have easy access to that type of banking in all sorts of territories globally. With stablecoins, you get instant, low-cost global payments, especially when they're running over the XRP ledger. Crypto Eddie posted this today. Cointelegraph, they did this hit piece really on the XRP ledger. And I didn't watch the whole thing, but it's the same stuff we heard. The XRP ledger isn't decentralized enough and all of this kind of stuff. At least come with something new. But, you can't focus too much on the past. And all of these blockchains have come a long ways. That's what makes this Cointelegraph special so stupid, because they're talking about stuff that was a big deal in 2017. Back in the day when if you weren't proof of work, you weren't considered a real cryptocurrency. We've come a long ways since then. And, when you look at any blockchain today, whether it's the XRP ledger, the Ethereum blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, they're all going to change drastically as we go into the future. These are all software, and it comes down to, how much adoption you have, how much volume, how many users, what your community is like, your growth vectors. Like, that's what really matters, because all this stuff will be drastically improved over time. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. And this was just an old and tired argument by Cointelegraph. Again, I just kind of skimmed through it, but it's much of the same. What caught my eye is this picture of Arthur Brito, where they claim that is not him, by the way. Don't be fooled by that. That's this guy right here. He's some developer, Michael Del Castillo, said, hey, they found him. Apparently, it's me. It's not. That's not Arthur Brito. Anyway, nothing too interesting in this. Cointelegraph just taking a jab. And this is an old school, kind of way of thinking, to be honest with you. We have family offices. They're starting to lean towards Ethereum ETFs more so than Bitcoin. Now, your big institutions, they're still heavily in Bitcoin. But we're going to see more and more of this, especially we're going to see more optionality here. XRP ETFs. You're going to see Solana ETFs. And the reason for this, it doesn't mean the family offices think Ethereum is quote unquote better than Bitcoin. It's just a valuation play, right? Bitcoin's in the 80,000 range, mid 80,000s, and Ethereum is down, and it has more ability to produce growth here over the next couple of years, I think is what they're looking at. It's just a strict valuation play here. And you're going to get more of this again as we get more of those altcoins across the finish line, and we have XRP ETFs and Cardano ETFs. I think you're going to see a lot of investors going in that direction because of the growth opportunity in front of us. According to Bitwise data, family offices allocate nearly 5 times more money to Ethereum ETPs than Bitcoin right now. Ethereum ETPs show more diversified ownership, with brokerages, advisors, and hedge funds sharing allocation. Bitcoin still dominates in total institutional volume. So again, you're very big investors. They're still, they understand Bitcoin. It's kind of value, but they're going to like what they see when they really start getting into the broader crypto space. And we're going to see more and more cryptocurrencies start to go mainstream here. China quietly selling crypto to top up government coffers amid economic slowdown here. And, it's interesting. A lot of times you sell what you can, not what you want. But what they say here is there is a growing call in China to create a crypto reserve similar to what the U.S. currently has rolling out under President Trump. Some officials suggest using Hong Kong as a legal hub to establish a sovereign crypto fund. Back in the day, you heard something like that, and it was just rumors. No, this is happening now in real time. We're going to see more reports of this. Governments globally are taking this serious, and you will see them expand those efforts and start to really acquire these assets in large amounts. And you got in before really the rush for all of this. Along that same line here, governments are turning to Binance to build their crypto reserves. Think of that. Binance just under heat just a year ago. The CEO going to jail, and now they are meeting with governments globally to help them set up their crypto reserves. And you have CZ, who is now an advisor to Pakistan and a few other countries. What a difference just 6 months has made. According to Financial Times, multiple nations are working with Binance to create national digital asset strategies. CEO Richard Tang confirms that sovereign wealth funds are seeking guidance on building crypto reserves and regulatory frameworks. This is when this takes off. You haven't seen anything yet. When this space really takes off, it's going to be crazy town. Saw this prediction up here. I want to hear what you think. This poster, Crypto Craftsman, said, no, my FLR prediction. Currently, at the time of writing, FLR is ranked number 63 in market cap. In 6 months, this poster is predicting that FLR will be in the top 20, and in 1 year, FLR will be in the top 10. We've seen cryptos in a very short amount of time jump up to the top 10. What I'm personally looking for out of FLR, I think it'll be a top 30 crypto, currency once we really hit the peak of this upcoming bull run. And remember, that's not even top 30 now, which would be a huge, just a ton of growth, but at much higher market caps. That's kind of what I'm shooting for. Not saying this is impossible, not saying it can't happen, not saying long term, definitely it could happen. But let me know what you think. Are we going to get that type of performance out of Flare? And I'm telling you, you don't even need to hit top 20 or top 10. If we hit top 30 in the midst of an all-on bull run, really a crypto alt season, those are going to be some really high values. That's what I'm expecting. But let me know what you think here. I saw this post here by Jeff Booth. If Bitcoin fails as a medium of exchange, it fails as a storage of value, period. Thought it was an interesting quote. And, blockchains can be good at different things. Bitcoin, of course, at least on the main chain, is not great for micropayments. Now, you can supplement that with some amount of volume on Lightning, of course. It's not the be-all, end-all, but you can send Lightning payments. I've used it before. I'm sure a lot of you have. It works, at least at some kind of scale. But, you can send very large payments over the Bitcoin blockchain. Like, I don't think it has failed at medium of exchange at all. It's used for trading in many markets, a lot of trading pairs there. But it's not good at everything. And I don't think any blockchain is great at everything. They all have different strengths and abilities, and that's why we know we'll have a multi-chain future. Again, XRP Ledger, great for very lightning fast payments, for micro payments, of course, all of this kind of thing. Ethereum is great for programmability. Like, wherever you want to kind of stack your deck and build your blockchain out, you're going to leave a spot open for other people. And I think that's all we're seeing here. I don't think Bitcoin is failing in anything. It's just not great at everything. And that's the case for crypto in general. Now, I said before this term started, we're going to go through this whole thing where you see President Trump and Jerome Powell, they're going to fight back and forth about cutting the rates. He's not going to want to cut it. He's been a caver since day one. He will cave and cut rates. But we see that's really starting to pick up the pace here. President Trump saying Fed Chair Jerome Powell's termination cannot come fast enough. Now, I'm telling you, I don't think he's going to step in here and fire Jerome Powell. I don't know that he can. He's saying he can, but I don't think we're going to see that happen. A lot of people starting to panic a bit about that. Mitt saying, very confident. President Trump is very confident right now on a trade deal with the European Union, also stating we will have a good deal with China. I sure hope so. Again, I've said if it sticks to strictly business, we're going to see a bunch of deals signed. If it's something more than that, specifically with China, could be more trouble. We will see. I expect business minds will prevail here and we'll see some deals done here. And Kathy Wood saying, you know what? If what we're going through right now, negotiations lead to lower global tariffs and lower non-tariff trade barriers, investors shorting equities right now and shorting crypto, same thing, now will be caught flat-footed or worse. A global tax cut would be a very good thing, and that may be how this plays out here. But why this ties all in? We see Kathy Wood. She's saying there could be a good way out of this. This could end up, if we get deals, this may end up well. You don't hear that out of Jerome Powell at all. He's very negative. Further, we see the European Union right now, they're cutting rates. They're starting to bring the rates down. He's refusing to do so. Everything he says is just ultra, bearish. He sees no way out where this could be a win. And Mohammed El-Arim, we're going to hear what he has to say. But I really like how he can take the politics out of it and really assess things. And he's calling for Jerome Powell to step down. And, when you look at leading up to this election, Jerome Powell was doing, the Fed was really doing mega cuts, right? Just trying to make things a little easier for the incumbents to possibly win. And then the minute it went the other way, they slammed the brakes on things. No more rate cuts. And it's like, what really changed? What changed when you were doing mega rate cuts to now when you're refusing to do so? And again, this is pre-trade war stuff. When he did that, he's just like, no more cuts. We see the rest of countries starting to bring those rates down. You have the U.S. that really has to refi a lot of debt this year. That's why it's so important, among other reasons. Uh, and he just refuses to do so. He is just ultra negative to the highest order. And yes, President Trump is political with the things he says. He's a politician, but I think Jerome Powell cannot be like that. And unfortunately, he has, in my opinion, allowed politics to go into his actions and bleed into the things he says. And that's a problem. And so Mohammed El-Erian saying the president shouldn't fire him, but he needs to step down. Let's hear to what he has to say here.
We know that President Trump has been frustrated at the absence of interest rate cuts. I suspect he got very angry when he heard Chair Powell yesterday. Chair Powell really put all the blame on tariffs, gave no possibility to the better outcome, zero, give it zero possibility. And then there's one thing you have to remember. I know that the conventional wisdom is that this is an attack on the independence of the Fed. There is another way of looking at this, which is this Fed has sacrificed people in the past. If you remember, the president of the Dallas Fed, the president of the Boston Fed, the vice chair were sacrificed ahead of Congress looking into allegations of insider trading. If you remember, the potential side was sacrificed to protect the monetary policy side. And it wouldn't surprise me if President Trump is pushing on this, because there's a real question for Chair Powell. Should he step down to preserve the independence of the Fed? Because otherwise, the Fed will be the subject of a lot of attacks going forward.
If he did. And let me be clear on this. I'm not saying that Jerome Powell should cave and should cut interest rates just because the president is going after him. But what he should not do is, let his commentary be swayed by politics, to let his actions be swayed by politics. To me, that's the problem, even if it just appears as such. And it's clear that's what's going on here. And so really he needs to step down. So we know we really have someone that's independent of, political reasonings, doing what's best. You don't know, the next Fed Reserve may come in here and not cut rates either. But I think he needs to step down. And Mohammed El-Erian is just hitting the nail on the head here.
Step down with that call into question even more the independence of the Federal Reserve. What's the optimal outcome here?
So this is a judgment that has to be made, and has to be made by Chair Powell. There are credible candidates. Kevin Walsh, for example. The markets would be very comfortable with Kevin Walsh as the Fed chair. He has tremendous experience. He understands the markets. He understands economics. He has expertise. So, I could see a scenario in which what Secretary Bassett said before the election plays out, where they pre-announce Kevin as the next chair. And then that puts tremendous pressure. And then Chair Powell has to make a very difficult decision. Let's
say that happens. And I know that's not your base case right now. You can tell us if it is, but it hasn't been before. Let's say it happens, though. How do you think the market would respond to that?
So I think the market would look at Kevin Walsh and think he's a very credible Fed chair. And I think the market would rather have a credible Fed chair that's not in continuous conflict with the White House than being in continuous conflict with the White House. The Harvard example is an illustration of what can happen. You can suddenly have all sorts of other things questioned about the Fed if it's in direct conflict with the White House.
Isn't this conversation alone putting into question the independence of the Fed? You're talking about scenarios where...
So we're not going to go over this all night long, but, clearly this Fed, he may be making the right call, but he's let political stuff bleed into what he's doing. And when he did mega cuts before that election, and then all of a sudden stopped, you just have to wonder, what the heck is this guy thinking? Because there is no defense for that. You may be saying right now during trade wars, he should not be cutting the rate. Fine. But what did he do that 50 basis point cut for? He's trying to soften things up a little bit. Clearly, that's what's going on, because there's no major difference between at least pre-trade war now and when he was doing those mega cuts. It's ridiculous, and it's just time to move on from this. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think we'll get a new Fed chair, not because the president fires him, but he'll step down, and he's a lame duck anyway. He doesn't have much time left. Get him out of there, and we can move on from here. If that happens, we sign some deals here with some countries and end a lot of this nonsense, that might be the catalyst we need. Only time will tell. Let me know what you think down below. As always, please like, please subscribe. The revolution will be televised right here on Jungle Link.